When you hop into your time-traveling DeLorean to cruise down the highway of time at a cool 88 miles per hour, you have to be very wary of the end of time, otherwise you'll be slamming on those quantum brakes. Probably safer to just walk there. In today's humble opinion, we're getting our chronon in Quantum Break. I'm having a difficult time getting this review out of me because what I want is to sing its praises for being genre-defying and to talk about how cool it is, but what I know to be true is that it's a lot of fluff and an unbelievably fascinating presentation. Don't get me wrong, I thoroughly enjoyed this title. I sunk about 20 hours into it and got all 100% of the achievements, and while I was playing it, I felt like it was the best game ever. But now that I'm sitting here writing out a review and asking myself why I felt that way, I'm coming up short on answers. Telling you that this game's quality is directly proportional to my enjoyment of it would be like trying to tell you that some mediocre junk food that I ate is fantastic because of its unusual texture. What sets Quantum Break apart from everything else is the fact that it successfully pulls off a blend of being a video game and a television show, which, if you weren't already aware, yes, there are full-blown 30-minute episodes of Quantum Break in the game. It begins with gameplay in which you follow the protagonist, and then at the end of each act, a minor segment in which you play as the antagonist mulling over the next course of action, and finally a 30-minute episode streamed from the internet that follows some of the more minor characters and features the choices that you've made as minor plot points. Each references and remains consistent with the others, so it's fluid and seamless. Granted, these are all ideas that have been worked with before, but Quantum Break is the first time I've ever seen it executed so cleanly. It gets me hyped for what sort of things might lie in the future of storytelling in video games in general. Another thing that it does well is its visuals. Not only is the game one giant continuous set piece with detailed environments, time effects, and large-scale chaos, but they also used performance capturing technology to bring the characters to life so that they can fully benefit from their actors' talent. I think that's what it's called anyway. You know, the shit that makes the characters' face look realistically like their actors. Unfortunately, beyond that, it simply doesn't have much going for it, at least not speaking critically. It's clear that it's a spectacle intended for a more general audience, so if you're the kind of person that can enjoy a really cool thing on the grounds that it is a really cool thing, you're good to go. Otherwise, you might have a few hang-ups. Like I said, the biggest draw is the way that it tells its story, but disappointingly, it doesn't use that method of delivery to tell a good story. It's incredibly event-driven, with very little emphasis on character development, or even what I would consider exposition. There is some, but nothing to write home about. Given that they go through such great lengths to offer up so many perspectives, you'd expect there to be an impactful reason for it, but it just turns out to be a mechanism for explaining why the complicated chain of events happened the way that it did, when it did. There's a lot of room for emotional depth given the situation. Time is coming to an end, nobody really knows what's going on. Professor Badtime, who is slowly succumbing to an inflammatory time disease known as Chronos disease, kills the brother of a childhood and lifetime friend, Mr. Goodtime. Does Mr. Goodtime need to process this? Nope. Does he grapple with the complicated emotions of a close friend betraying him and killing his estranged family member? Of course not. He instantly switches over to revenge mode. Even when everyone's explaining why they're behaving the way that they are and arguing about their respective philosophies about the end of the world and understanding of how it's going to happen, nobody ever budges. There's no growth from the conflict, only more conflict. Everyone's talking but no one's listening, and one just happens to be arbitrarily right by the end of it. It's just a bunch of smart people waving their theoretical dicks around. Then you've got gameplay. When it's not a glorified cutscene of you walking from one place to another while someone spouts dialogue, it's either combat, exploration, or extremely light puzzle solving, none of which feel fully realized. The combat, at first, is fun and new. You're getting time powers and using them strategically to set up nifty kills and be a general badass. Then enemies that are immune to your time powers start appearing, rendering them pretty much useless aside from those that personally affect you. I mostly ended up just treating it like your run-of-the-mill action game and not using my powers at all, aside from the occasional shield to heal myself or the movement abilities to get away from a threat. Then they add the snipers, which can fuck right off to hell unless you have a rifle of your own. They're pinpoint accurate and remarkably resistant to getting shot in the fucking head. Then they've got the juggernauts, who diminish the fight to a repetitive zip behind them, shoot them, zip away, reload, zip behind them, shoot them, zip away, reload. All that potential reduced to a steaming pile of irritating fluff. Normally you can find Quantum Break on the Steam store for the price of $39.99, which is pretty reasonable given the quality of the visuals alone, but if you base the game's value on substance, I'd say that $20 would feel a bit more reasonable due to the entertainment value and overall experience. Or you could wait for it to go on sale for as low as $9.99, at which point I would definitely suggest it if you're curious. It's absolutely worth it, even if it's just to experience and see what could have been. Gameplay for Quantum Break earns a 7.5 out of 10. It's not going to be the best game you've ever played, or the best show that you've ever watched, or even have the most hard-hitting decisions that you've ever made. In fact, it can come off as downright cheesy from time to time, but that doesn't change the fact that it looks really, really cool or that it's entertaining. And it certainly doesn't mean that its attempt to synthesize various mediums into one entertaining whole isn't worth experiencing for yourself. It's breathtaking and fascinating. I just wish that they'd have had more time to flesh out the more human aspect of the story as much as the course of the story itself. Still, it sets the foundation for something truly extraordinary. Thank you everybody for watching, and a personal thanks to Remedy Remedy Entertainment for taking on such an ambitious vision. These are the same guys who made Alan Wake, so you know they've got some creative chops going for them. The game turned out really well, and I'm truly excited to see what awaits on the horizon from them. Until then, remember that failure is not the worst case scenario, to glow on with your bad selves, and to stay awesome.